I bought some more Gibson history. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I was able to catch something on the rebound from the Maudie Moore Estate. So just as a quick recap in case you missed these previous episodes, Maudie Moore was a huge part of Gibson's business. She did a lot of the custom engravings on the pantograph machines and basically any of the fine detailed work, including some of the inlays, the pearl work and the peg head veneers. But unfortunately, she passed a couple of years ago and her estate got auctioned off. And I've made it my mission for people to know her name even more so her legacy can live on. But that initial auction was kind of closed. You had to be there, they weren't shipping it, it was private bids only, you couldn't tell how much things were going for. But later on, there were a few items put onto eBay, and I missed out on them because the bidding just got too high. But imagine my surprise when some of those items show up on Reverb. So I think you might know what's in here. An original Kalamazoo old stock body blank of the map guitar. How cool is that? I'm not really sure why Maudie had this because it's not really her area of expertise. This was James Hutchins' baby. But the My House to Your Home auctioned off 3 of these. The opening bid was about $500 on each of them, and I was totally okay with one of those, at opening bid. But each of them ended up selling for about $1,000, give or take 100. And as I was saying, I didn't really want to pay $1,000 for a chunk of wood that's just gonna sit and you really can't do much with, because this one doesn't have any routing or anything. You would have to further get it processed. But it looks like my initial thought of these being factory second bodies, that they were just yeah, it's not worth doing all the work for. Might have been true because you got these knots in the wood right here down by Texas on the backside. And what was really strange about this one is the fact that it did not have the pancake body construction, because most of these maps do have that just because it's such a large chunk. So I suppose it's possible she made this, or it was some sort of a prototype blank that they just ended up not going for. But this Reverb listing had not only 1, but 2 of the 3 blanks. And I was actually able to get them for the asking price of the auction because nobody just really saw his Reverb ad. He wanted some money for a guitar show that was coming up, and he was happy when it was me who was buying them. But this particular blank has a marking on it. It says use original map neck only. So perhaps as production shifted, they changed the neck pocket or something. But this one has the correct pancake body construction. So I definitely know this was, actually at Gibson production line stuff. It's not Maudie just making stuff for fun, because she liked to make coasters and a bunch of other stuff. But this one actually has the routes, including the channel cavity. And it's the version that has the 4 holes right here. And I suppose it might be worth mentioning that the non-pancake one is a little bit thicker. So maybe it didn't have the final planing yet. So now the big question is, what do I do with these things? I inadvertently became the map guy when I bought the poster child, the one that was seen in all the Gibson advertisements back in the 80s and is still even sometimes used yet today for marketing USA made. But you can check out this episode if you need to learn all about the history. So that's the obvious and easiest route. I can use this as a display piece next to the poster child in my future museum. But option 2 is a little bit more fun. I could send this to Gibson, or somebody who I know does really good work, and create a custom map guitar. This one's even more fun because I could make a replica of the poster child with my preferred toggle switch placement, or I could, do whatever I want. I could have Jazzmaster pickups, in either of these. Another idea I have floating in my head is, what if I have them bind it and make the first Les Paul customified map guitar? I could have a brand new Stars and Stripes done, or the ebony finish, or a white one. I mean, this is 100% guaranteed new old stock body. This one, I'm sure it is too, but it's got a little bit more of a history behind it that unfortunately was lost to time with Maudie's passing. So please, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should we make a fun project out of these, or should we just leave history alone, new old stock body blank? Because let's face it, that's pretty cool to have too. If I'm gonna do it, I need to find a new old stock 80s Gibson neck to throw on here, and I would prefer it to be a customs neck. So we'll see what surfaces. But if you watch that old video, you might remember this one has the weird stripe in it. That's probably why they decided not to continue on production with it. Well, that auction actually included some paperwork, which, wow, those are minty fresh hang tags. I actually do not have one of these in my collection, so I'm very happy with that. I don't think I have one of these either, but once again, that's the poster child guitar that I own. But this is an old price list, so I'll definitely be keeping that because it's just good for future reference of videos. And like, there's your original price of the Paul Deluxe, the original Les Paul Studios. Sometimes they tell you the different official color codes. This looks like a tear out from a different sheet that talks about the American series, but once again, there's a little map guitar. And then I've got a couple of these. I might throw this up on Reverb. I've had decent luck selling them. However, at the same time, you know, it's from Maudie's Estate. I kind of like that stuff, so I'll probably just end up keeping it. Sometimes I look at the stuff in my collection and I just go, how? How did I do it? It's amazing what you can find when you're constantly scouring the internet and documenting Gibson history for a living. So thank you for coming along this journey with me. But before we continue our fun tonight, let's go ahead and have a word from our sponsor, Sweetwater. Sweetwater is a great place to buy new gear. From electric guitars, to pianos, to even the orchestral instruments. They have many different ones to choose. One of my favorite things about Sweetwater when you're buying a guitar is the fact that they show you all the different tops, all the different weights, even the serial numbers. You can choose your exact guitar before they ship it to you. And by they, I mean your personal dedicated sales engineer that's going to call up and check on you, not just after the sale, but many a months down the line as well. They want to build a relationship with you. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring tonight's episode. Now let's get back to my content. Hey, Trogly from the future here. I decided to wipe down one of the bodies with what I use for the guitar stands that are raw mahogany, and now we've got this really cool color, but I had a thought. What if this chunkier body is how they initially made these, and then they sawed them in half in order to put that maple layer in between? So rather than a cost savings thing, maybe they did that lamination of woods to, you know, protect the extremities. You don't want Florida, Texas, or Maine, or any of the other ones falling off, even though it still ended up happening. It's a possible theory. All right, that's a tough unboxing to beat, but let's try this one. This is a model I'm looking for in my collection, but it's got to be the right condition. This has got the configuration I want, but we'll see. I figured we'd pass on the review of it unless it happens to be perfect, because we just documented this model not that long ago. And yeah, bonus packing material feature. I always love it when people just use whatever's like left over in their closet. Like we've got some shirts that somebody cut the sleeves off of. We've got used carpet padding. Now, to be fair, it might not be used, but yeah. Some of my favorite things are when people use stuffed animals from like thrift stores. They can sometimes be cost effective as packing material. It sure beats just sending the guitar naked in a case. But here we go. The Gibson Guitar Company USA. This is not a knockoff. This was a real Gibson case. But let me tell you, they look cool, but they're really not that good of cases. But there are two different versions. We'll have to see which one this is. One of them is actually good. But they're kind of heavy, bulky wooden cases. And hey, we're updating my wardrobe even more. Whoa. All right, that finish actually is looking pretty clean. So here we go. It's one of these Sonics models. This particular one is a standard. So the whole thing with the Sonics model that's kind of confusing is the standard is like the top dog. The custom actually ranked below it. So this version doesn't get the crappy velvet brick humbuckers that are almost worthless. These are the real deal double lead dirty fingers, which can sell for like $800 on their own. So that's why this particular version is worth so much more. So if I remember correctly, I think they said it was like mint condition or something, but I could see from the photo that there was like a nasty ding on the headstock, but I thought, well, maybe a Sharpie would touch that up. But what's really cool about this one is you can actually still see the original satin finish in many areas, but you can also see where it naturally got buffed up. Most Sonicses that you see on the used market have eventually been polished into more of an even semi-gloss to glossy look. So this is kind of a interesting one potentially for the collection. Ultimately, I'm still looking for something cleaner than this, so I don't know, maybe I will list it and move it on. But it is interesting how you can, you know, show what the original finish looked like. So maybe I'll wait until I find a cleaner one. But ooh, looks like maybe shipping damage. Maybe seller forgot to tell me about something, but we've got some cracks along the neck of this standard. So I'll have to get with the seller, see what we're going to do with that. That's unfortunate, but at least it wasn't a perfect example. And it's got decent part out value anyway, but seems to be playable as is. But that seals the fate as far as keeping this one in my collection. Because my big thing is I want the Sonics case like this one has, and having paperwork is always cool. So this is not too bad. However, I was telling you earlier how there's a good version and a bad version. This is the crappy version. The one you want actually has a double neck rest, and then they have a little pocket right here for accessories. I would actually say this case is in pretty good shape for one of these. Usually the Tolex is always ripping off of them. And now lastly, a guitar I think I got out of Taiwan. Or somewhere around that part of the world. It just popped up on Reverb one night, and it's a model that's gotten scarce. I just recently sold my spare of this one, but I still have one within my personal collection, but it's always good to have the owl guitar. If I remember correctly, this was like, what, 2019-ish? They came out with the Jim James Signature ES335. I always liked it because it was just, you know, a nice walnut brown color. You don't have to care about the band My Morning Jacket or its signature artist. He even said so himself. He was just trying to design something that was cool for everybody to want to purchase. And 70s walnut brown, it works for me because I like the Norland era. But I also love animal-influenced instruments, and this one happens to have that little owl on the backside of the headstock as a cool little decal, and we get the waffle back tuners. Nice touch. But it looks like our serial number dates to 2021, so maybe it wasn't that long ago that these things came out. But it looks like it survived the trip just fine, so if you're interested in one of these, I really like the very light color of this one. Some of these are pretty dark. Maybe I'll have to compare it to the other one in my collection, but this is one of those models that I'm keeping back because I just like it. And I'm really not that big of an ES335 guy either. So that's all of our unboxing fun for tonight, but we do have a few packing stories for you. We've got an Explorer that I'm a little bit sad to say goodbye to. It's the Custom Shop Demo Emo stamped one. I picked this one up out of the USA demo shop just because, you know, I've always been curious about the Mahogany version of one of these. I wanted to know if I like the specs. And I do. They have these big, giant, chunky necks to them. And ever since they came out with the $10,000 version of pretty much the exact same guitar, just made a Carina, it made these things seem like a much better deal than they did back when they were introduced at $5,000. So if you can find one of these used, like 35 to 45-ish, I think you're going to have a great time. And now that they are officially discontinued on Gibson's website, I think you have a chance of these actually appreciating in value, assuming they don't bring them back into production anytime soon. Which honestly is kind of sad, because 10 grand is out of the reach for most people. And I'm not saying 5,000 isn't expensive either, but it's a little bit more attainable brand new. But time will tell what happens to these. This one has a really cool story behind it. So I've had this in my collection for like the past year and a half or so, mainly because I didn't have time to make the review for it, but we finally got around to it and I got it listed, and I thought I put it up for like a steal of a deal, but it did sit around for a couple of months. But if you remember correctly, when we had documented this, I had noticed this, and the guy I had purchased it from said he never even noticed that before. To be fair, when do you ever look at the bottom end of your Strat? But the buyer for this one recognized that, and apparently this was his uncle's guitar, and he remembers seeing it when he was growing up. So it's just fate that they were able to get this guitar, because they had to do a short layaway on this. But it is finally time to send it on its way. He's a guitar teacher, a technician. He's going to be able to get the neck to be where it needs to go and do all that shimming and whatnot. So happy ending on this one. At this point in my life, I have no interest in collecting Fenders, so I'm glad it's going to a loving home. I knew this one was gonna sell like instantaneously after that video aired. It's just that beautiful, very early Custom Shop double cut Les Paul Special. Is it anywhere near as accurate as the reissues of today? No, but it's got a certain vibe to it. Very punk rock. If you get it at the angle just right, like you have to look down at it like this to see any of the finish checking, but it is all over there and just cleaned up so beautifully. When I got it, it had scratches everywhere. That whole cleaning process video really did wonders. Just as a fun fact, before I filmed that with the Spotlight Special, I was considering doing it with this one, but I thought some of those scratches were just going to be too deep. It probably would have been the better guitar to do that video with, but whatever. Some guitars clean up a little bit better than others. But this one's just being shipped about an hour or two away, and we'll have to continue to look for more Gibson limited edition guitars from the early 90s, because the whole truss rod thing only lived for a couple of years before they switched to those decals on the back. This set is going to the same buyer over in Japan. What are they? It's the Dave Mustaine Custom Shop Flying V's. I had these for a great deal on my website. It's just people don't check that as often. And these do just take a little bit longer to sell in general. I'm honestly surprised by that. Only 75 of each color for a very unique Explorer headstock Flying V. I think these are something that people will not appreciate right away, but maybe when Dave moves on to a different brand, or they stop making his Flying V, or maybe this wasn't just for this generation. Maybe it'll take 10, 20 years for people to fully appreciate these, but I seriously see this as kind of a sleeper model, because look, flame top Flying V string through. I mean, yeah, you have to like the wide thin neck profile. I'm not personally the biggest fan of it, And they both have the VOS finish. It's just like heavily apparent on the black one. It just looks like it's all scratched up. But with this lighting, what's really cool is you can tell that this is actually a super flame top model, just like the other one we saw. You can see the ripples in the finish showing off the flame. So if somebody was crazy enough to want to refinish this into translucent green flame top, they could. But this guy appears to be a budding collector. He was telling me he's never bought a guitar worth over $3,000, but he was trying to decide what color he should get, and he was having a hard time, so I just said, hey, I'll just give you a great deal for both. And he decided that was a fantastic option. So time to jump over the pond. This is one I'm going to remember because you don't find many Les Paul customs in the blue Silverburst finish. This one's actually joining a few other guitars that I've sold Gary. Remember that really beautiful natural 1991 new old stock-like condition that just had the finish checking? It's joining his collection. He was just texting me, oh man, I need to stop watching your show. When he first started watching, he only had 7 guitars. And over the course of 3 years, he's up to 40. I'm both sorry and not sorry that my show has inspired you to want to appreciate these fine beasts. Because he's also got like one of those Adam Jones V2s. I mean, he's got great taste. And this is a perfect little addition for him. But if you missed the review and demo of this one, you can check it out here. Let's go get it shipped off to Texas. Well, that's all of our unboxing fun for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow for some more fun. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.